All right, welcome back to another episode of Cameo. I'm sitting again at the Grindhouse where I'm gonna continue on my civic election little sprint. Actually, I met my next guest here maybe 2 months ago or so.
Officially, yeah.
Officially, yeah. We met online in the Nexus. It's William Turnbull, one of the two mayoral candidates. So William, introduce yourself. Who are you, and where might people know you from in Kamloops?
Yeah, I can see you, Nevin. And yeah, we're in the Grindhouse. We met at the Downtown Neighborhood Association Social. I'm the current president, and that includes downtown proper and the West End. It doesn't include Sagebrush, just so people know. I spent 20 years in Williams Lake before I arrived in Kamloops. I've grown a lot. I've been here 11 years. I would definitely say I had my redneck card coming from Williams Lake. I think anybody that spent 20 years in Williams Lake, regardless of how cultured or educated they would come out with a redneck card. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I think we need maybe another definition for the word redneck. Good old boy or never meaning no harm kind of thing. Current chair of my Strata Council. I like the Kamloops Matters questions. I actually go to the Sasquatch question first. And I have to admit, I don't really have time to read any other ones, but I go right there. And I was a little disappointed with Ken's. He went along the lines of, I don't know where you're going with this, but I'm not going there with you, which I guess is sort of funny, but I kind of like mine better. And David Trowin saw the humor in it. I said if I met the Sasquatch, I'd hire him as our next CAO, and he found that quite humorous. I mean, yeah, how could you pass that down? I mean, assuming, of course, David had retired or whatever. And
Well, that's if you believe a Sasquatch is kind of like the hairy 1980s Sasquatch
well, who
movie.
knows, right? Yeah, I don't know what a Sasquatch is, so they could be among us right now. I could be one. You could be one. I don't know.
Well, depending on if you believe different, the Cree people believe in Watika, which is their version of Sasquatch, right? Which is the idea.
Another way of saying Wendigo? Or?
What? There's some people who use Wendigo as like a synonym, and others that it's a different beast. But
there's the abominable snowman.
Yeah, Yeti. But the idea of like Watika is like man cannibalizes itself because it's so greedy, and it turns into an ice monster.
Oh, wow, okay, the evil side of things.
So, like, I
consider the Sasquatch friendly myself. I mean, we're obviously joking around here.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you never know with these things, and that's what I liked about the Kamloops Matters thing, is you got me to use my humor and in a serious thing that an election can be. The humor, I find, needs to be had. I've known Ken for a while. We're not like friends or anything, but we are acquaintances. I did go to his retirement party, and my wife worked with Ken, and they hugged at the candidates forum, and we shook hands, and we're happy we're both running. It would be a lame duck kind of a thing if it was just one guy acclaimed. It's like, wow, that's pretty sad for Kamloops. And I think it's a credit to Ken and I that it is only the two of us. I mean, I'm just speculating, but some people have dropped out. Others are, what do you say, friendly towards me. Mm-hmm. So perhaps the community, in its own way, just sort of said, hey, you got Ken, you got William, pretty good choices. They both offer different perspectives. The truth probably lies somewhere in the middle on what needs to be done, and let's at least make it exciting. I really like Mel's article about me. It is tough to go up against an incumbent. There's no doubt about it. Ken's got lots of experience. I've got lots of experience in other areas, though, as well. And there's a clear choice between the two of us, and I think that's good for the voters. And like Mel was saying, it gets interest out there. It gets people coming. They've got it listed as like a super heavyweight fight for the Kamloops this week. They've got Merrill Mayhew, the Radio NL interview, asked if I would go toe-to-toe, and I said, can I bring gloves? And I am actually a boxer, so I like it. Ken's got the reach on me, but if I'm allowed to use my special move of sit-on guy, then I got this, because I'm unfortunately 280, 6 feet he's definitely got the height advantage. The guy is quite tall, which is interesting in debates and whatnot.
Well, when did you when we first met? You were still figuring out if you wanted to run at that time.
Yeah, I threw it out there and we kicked it around, and we decided in that group that if I was going to go for it, I did need to take it seriously and give it. So when I did officially decide, it was with, okay, this needs to be done properly and taken seriously. And it's just been amped up ever since. When my child was born, I was told by a good mentor of mine that, yeah, you're not going to know until it actually happens. You can read all the books you like. Until you go through that experience, you're not going to know. And that's the same thing running for mayor. I had no idea I was going to be 3 times as busy when I was busy. Mm-hmm. And it's been a quick balancing act to try and get as much done, try and answer all the questions, try and get through all the interviews, but at the same time remain William. I had a friend today say, hey, you don't quite seem your happy self. And I said, yeah, I need to get back to that. Yes, this is a serious thing, but it's not worth taking it to the extreme where I drop over dead. I mean, that's just ridiculous. It doesn't do anybody any good. I mean, we need democracy in action. We need to have a clear choice of who people want.
Yeah. When you're out chatting with the community, what's Kamloops saying to you? Is there a reoccurring theme?
It's a wide variety of things. One of the interesting questions I got was train idling. And I used to work for CP Rail, and they're quiet, those things sometimes. And then they're very loud at times, and especially if you're trying to sleep at 5 a.m., you don't want to see a train there, even though you realize that you bought near a train and you're going to hear the train. But there are actually things a person can do about it. I spent some time looking it up. It's not easy because you need to have the railway work with the city and whoever, the regional district and the neighborhood. But there are solutions. There is actually a reason for trains idling, which I thought was interesting. The older trains actually need to run, presumably to keep the brakes running. Which I'm not an expert on brakes, but I know I did have my air brakes ticket for like a truck, and I do know that if you lose your air because your engine's down or whatever, it's bad news. So it's not just because they're leaving it to idle just for fun or anything like that. There are actually some reasons, but there's still ways to mitigate the sound. And so that was an interesting question, the whole train idling thing. Obviously, what's forefront for me is the poor people that are on their way to dying and are sleeping on the street. And I understand the average guy, he's got his job and doesn't have time to really think the big picture kind of thing. It's like, geez, that guy's an annoyance, or that guy actually attacked me and I don't have much empathy for him, or he ripped me off. And that's pretty tough to expect someone to have a look at the big picture. But bottom line is we do need to get the vulnerable off the streets and into immediate emergency shelter. That needs to be happening. There's no reason we can't do that.
So, yeah, that has been something a lot of people have been speaking to me about. And but it what happens after the shelter? Right? Just getting off the street is not gonna be enough. And how do we pick them up and let them give a self-sustain? And is that a place for the city, or is that a place for IH to kind of deal with? Where do you kind of draw the line there?
Well, you nailed it, Nevin. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. And, of course, the worn-out phrase, hand up, not a handout. I mean, obviously that needs to be done, the old tough love. And if guys are prolific offenders, then they need to go to jail. And not necessarily from a punitive stance, which is part of that, but the rehabilitative aspect is that's where the money is for the programs. And unfortunately, counterintuitive, but that's unfortunately where some of these guys need to go, because that's where they will get shelter. That's where they will get help. And yeah, and the thing is, yeah, immediately we need to get people off the street. That's number one. Obviously, we're going to have the wraparound services. But if we have people in a temporary spot. You can send in the street workers. You can send in the food. Then we can transition to actual housing, actual work programs. They can be assessed. I mean, Medicine Hat has figured this out. They have a 10-day turnaround for this kind of thing. Ted Clugson, arguably a business-orientated mayor, the social community advocated for a few years. The argument that got through to Ted was, hey, we can save money by housing these guys rather than what we're currently doing. It was, I think, I don't know if exactly, but it was something like 3 times as much money not doing anything about it as doing something about it. Kelowna has invested $35 million to have roughly a 15-day turnaround.
What is a turnaround? What do you mean by that?
Turnaround is an intake. I would come off the street needing a home. In 10 days, they would find something for me, or in 15 days, they would find something for me. And Kamloops, I don't know what our turnaround. I'd guess at 2 years or something like that. I mean, although I think it's probably gotten better. Maybe it's 6 months or 3 months now. We do have affordable housing coming in, and that's great. I applaud that. I personally donated $2,500 of my own money to try and get a temporary shelter going. I set up a meeting with the regional director, Ann Howard, to get that going. And perhaps some of my efforts have borne fruit. I can't really quantify that. We can do it. There is no reason for us not to do it. I just can't say more than enough about it. It's that simple. We can do it, and it's easy. It's easy to do. It's just doable. There's empty schools. There's property. Perhaps the Rocky Mountain Rangers have tents they can send up. I don't know. We need to think outside the box. We need to get it done. It just needs to happen. We managed to do it for the wildfires. We managed to billet people. We're talking about, I think, 330 people right now that are going to need winter shelter. And we haven't had a real shelter since April 1st. So that's April 1st to November. As far as I know, there's not going to be any real shelter. Out of the Cold will open up again. Emerald House may get some beds because some of the people might go to the Mission Flats housing. But from my understanding, we're still going to have about 330 people wandering around. Maybe half of them will relocate. Although with Greyhound gone, I don't know how they're going to do that. Unless we deal with this, we're going to see some more of the same and probably more serious problems. Unfortunately, there's an incident where a fellow got shot. Unfortunately, from the sounds of things, it needed to happen. And poor guy got attacked in front of the library. I mean, the garbage issue of the needles, it's very terrifying. I'm not comfortable with when I see a syringe, I just think needle. It's not even necessarily a needle. And I do agree with the interior health doctor that the chances of being infected is pretty minimal. But yeah, I wouldn't want to get poked by it or even have to touch it. I definitely want sort of gloves or stick or whatever. And it's garbage. We need to pick it up. And if the city is willing to pick it up, then I can see where where they would like some extra funding from the province through Interior Health to do that. I really empathize with the city. It's being downloaded so many services from the federal and provincial government. It's not even funny. And we don't have the authority, the power, or the funding to do it, but it's left on our doorstep. So it's not necessarily a mandate. We're stuck with it. And what'll end up happening is the nonprofits will take over. And we've already got nonprofits doing the work, in my opinion, of the Ministry of Social Services and Housing, etc. When back in the day, that was all government run, and one could argue what was better, but at least they had you're guaranteed they had the proper training and they had a proper wage. They had a union wage, and I highly support the agencies that are doing all this work. But things need to improve, and we do need to lobby the higher levels of government. What's happening now is, just like with the school boards, you've got parents that are understandably concerned what's happening in their school and with their child, and the school board is trying to get across to them that they only have so much money, that they're not even allowed to go any higher. But the parent may not understand that it's actually the government that needs to release those funds. And so what ends up happening is potential scrap between the parents and school boards when it's actually we all need to be lobbying the governments.
So, from what I'm hearing from you is, come the 21st, if you're in, your plan is to lobby the government more to advocate for the release of these funds, or is there another part of your platform that I'm missing right now?
Well, for sure, I've got more to the platform. But yeah, you're right. That would be one thing, is we definitely need to lobby the government's, higher levels of government for more funding, authority, or the services. And that comes down to jobs. I mean, that is a big thing. I mean, everybody needs a living wage. I would say a thriving wage. And that would mean working on the primary industries that we already have, working hard to get secondary industries. It seems a little out of the box for me, but apparently hemp isn't that strange of an industry to be involved in. And with Domtar perhaps aging out eventually, perhaps we need to be looking into hemp now, growing it and using it for all the products that it can be used for. Apparently, it's basically a miracle plant. And you can't get high off it, just so people know. It would take an entire field of hemp to maybe even get buzzed. So it's
like 0.0.
Yeah, so we're not talking the marijuana here. We're talking the hemp. It's I remember back in the day, huge hemp ropes. So there actually is a practical application that we are missing out on.
Yeah, my old college roommate's actually working on making kayak paddles and a whole kayak out of hemp, and is supported by part of the Alberta government or whatever is lobbying a lot of Albertans to invest in the hemp industry, because for growing it, our agriculture system around here could possibly sustain it, because we did have that big hop farm that unfortunately closed down. But moving forward, I noticed your presence on the neighborhood nexus on Facebook is all but diminished. Are you stepping yourself away from that because you almost have kind of collected most of the civic-minded people in Kamloops in one spot, or are you just too busy to kind of maintain a presence at the same time on Facebook?
I'm quite excited with the Nexus. It's done its job, and I do check in, and I'm thrilled that people are chatting without me. It's humbling that, oh my God, it can exist without me. That's great, and people are being respectful, which is the chat guidelines. And I've put it right in the pinned post that I'm unavailable right now. Come to me by email, and you can follow me on my mayor page. And that's simply it. I'm 3 times as busy as I was before. I still check in, but I don't have as much time to read everything. And I literally read everything and checked every post super closely, and there's just no time for that. It's just not humanly possible for me.
Yeah. Now, should the 21st come about, where does that leave you with the Nexus? How do you have you thought about your kind of plans to do with it? Come the 21st if you get in.
Yeah, with the win would come a lot of change. I would probably need to step down from a lot of things, just be on a time crunch basis. The mayor job is a full-time salary job, and it would consume me utterly and wholly, which is great. That would mean I'm in a position now to put forward a lot of the Nexus ideas, and obviously if I won, then obviously I have a mandate to push things through, lobby things. The thing is, as mayor, though, if I'm voted down 8-1 on something, it's still my job to push their council's will through. And that comes back to another point, is I do want neighborhood associations as stakeholders. I do want the community to have direct access to the council. And I do want council to work with the neighborhoods to get a clear view of what the public wants. So it's public and council, and that includes mayor, telling David's, the CAO, what it is we want as a community, and then having David go to the staff, and this is what they want. And then we as council and mayor just keep at them until we get it, and then it's up to David to make sure that happens.
Would you like to see a ward system set up in Kamloops then?
It's a really interesting idea, and I haven't done enough research on it. That's why I mentioned neighborhood associations. That is what we currently have, but I think it is worth looking into. I would like to see neighborhood associations looked at first, but definitely it's worth looking at the science of a ward system. I'm not entirely familiar with Calgary. I don't know if they have a ward system or not, but I do know they have a very powerful neighborhood association, which to me makes sense. That's grassroots governance at its finest.
Awesome. Is there something that you wish you had more opportunity to speak about when you're speaking with other platforms that you just didn't have time to share?
Yeah, I could mention a bit about sidewalks, drainage, bridges, vehicle-wise, pedestrian-wise, parks. It's been brought up in the CAM plan, so it is important that we follow the OCP, the Official Community Plan. It is not a guideline. It is actually a bylaw. If we do change it, it needs to be changed in a bylaw manner. Obviously, there's room for tweaking or possibly exemptions, but it's a rocky road to not follow that. And there's a lot of different. There's the TNRD agreement that we have that we need to align with the TNRD as well. We definitely need to align with the Kamloops. We need to find out what the Kamloops wants and vice versa. And there's many other plans that fall beneath the OCP, the neighborhood plans. There's any kind of thing you can think of, there's a plan for it, from what I could tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it came to my attention that people in Southern Rivers aren't able to vote in the election either. Is that correct?
Correct. They can vote in the TNRD election.
In the TNRD.
But they can run as a candidate.
They can run as a candidate.
Correct.
That strikes me as so odd, how that exactly works, because we're trying to create synergies with the band, right, as Kamloops into Kamloops, right? Like, but then they're almost cut off. But then they can still. Do you want to see that change, or is that just how it is and how we have to roll at this point?
Well, that's how. I mean, that shows how important David Trowan's job is city administration officer, CAO, and the CAO of the mayor. You know, it's David's job to communicate with all levels of government, especially what the council wants. And what I personally want to see is definitely a simpatico hand in glove with the TNRD into Kamloops. Great long vision down the road. I'm kind of excited to see what's going to happen with the First Nations settlements and whatnot. We have a powerful neighbor. Mm-hmm. I went over and asked if I could sit in on some government sessions put on by the Shuswap Nation, and thankfully, after some discussion, they allowed me to sit in as a guest, and it was life-changing for me. I could see them the mountain right from my window. They're the biggest neighbor we have. And we definitely need to be working together as best we can. I'm excited to see the bus out there. I understand from anecdotal evidence it's not maybe used as much. I will eventually use it myself. I have walked over there. We could use a bit of a sidewalk on the highway. It disappears after a while. It's coming. It's coming. And that's the thing. Change can happen quite quickly, or it can be glacial. And I think we just need to keep our eye on the ball and keep at it. Not get discouraged. There is hope. Good ideas will come through, whether you're on the left on the political spectrum or on the right. I mean, I think we all love Kamloops. We love the sunshine. We like being able to say hello and get a hello back, usually more so on the river trail, but it's different than Kelowna or the coast. There's a lot of benefits to this town, or else we wouldn't be here.
Absolutely. I certainly agree. It's certainly a city that I've learned to love, and though I didn't really know what I was moving to when I came here. You know, the little hot spots kind of popped up of those little neat little nooks and crannies. What are some of your favorite little places around town that you find yourself frequenting?
Well, there's lots. I like the mom and pop kind of shops, and what I mean by that is if you consider the Grindhouse to be locally owned and operated, it's not a chain. There's nothing wrong with chains, but I do find the money stays and is created for the employees and the owner. It usually stays. Like Passick's, I enjoy going there. Go to Zach's. Of course, I like my beer, so I'll go to the Red Beard or the Red Collar or the Noble Pig. There's the Alchemy Brewing that's opening up.
It's pretty exciting, yeah.
Yeah, we have a great brew industry in town. It can be a real fun town. We have so much potential here, and we have more and more people driving a thriving Kamloops. I want to see a thriving Kamloops. I just don't want to. I don't want to see just a surviving Kamloops. I want to see a thriving Kamloops.
Well, what does a thriving Kamloops look like in your vision, in your head?
Well, we've talked about a lot of it already. But I guess it'd be when I walk the street and when other people walk down the street, you can feel it. You can feel the vibrancy. You can feel the excitement. If there's something you want to go do, if you want to go mountain bike, you can go do it. You want to skateboard, you can go do it. You want to have a beer, nice wine, you can go do it. You want to catch a play, you can go do it. You want to play a sport, you can go do it. You want a nature hike, you can go do it. And a lot of stuff we can do it now, but there's no end to improvement. We're always going to be improving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you mentioned earlier you donated some money to some sort of an emergency center. You call yourself a philanthropist.
Yes.
Right. And so I was reading the newspaper that it's not, you're not like an organized charity or organization. How do you?
Well, I like the word Jessica Wallace used, moniker. The Turnbull Humanitarian Foundation is me, and I live off the money and donate it where and when I see fit.
Okay, so it's kind of like how Cameo is really just a moniker for me at this point.
Exactly.
Though it kind of at one point wanted to be more than me, but it really just comes back to.
And I could make it into an official deal, but there's no reason to.
Yeah. What have you been noticing? Some themes that you've been chatting with the other city councillor candidates as well. Are you finding some camaraderie and some plans? Because I know chatting with Nicholas Adams, he said after he ran the by-election, he was seeing some of his ideas coming forth in the current city council. You see some sort of structure, themes, allegiances being made at this time, or?
Well, last year I was dubbed the honorary candidate. I supported a few candidates and went to everything. And I did see the camaraderie. There was a lot of new people, a lot of excitement. And whether or not they agreed with one another or would hang out afterwards or would ever hang out again or would ever meet without an election, there definitely was a camaraderie just because it was new, exciting, and probably a lot of nerves happening. And so, yeah, the same thing's happening now. It's definitely different for me now, and perhaps because I'm mayor and there's just the two of us, it's definitely not the same thing as hanging out with a bunch of councillors. I do definitely feel outside of the pack in that regard. Which is interesting. Awesome. And I don't know about you, but I kind of got to get going.
Yeah, no.
But thank you very much for your time.
Totally. Thanks for chatting with me. I appreciate it, Bill. Or William. I guess it's William. William Turnbull.
Well, you see, you get the benefit of knowing me when I was Bill, right? So now you're famous.
Well, be sure to vote on the 20th. Research everything you possibly can. And thanks for chatting with me. Vote. And subscribe if you haven't already. And share this with anyone else that might be interested. Thank you.